This is the Steampunk Carriage. The project was inspired by a friend and fellow artist, Yabet. At a sidewalk art show in the neighborhood, I saw an illustration from a series of cars she had made. When I saw her artwork, I was immediately inspired to make a model of the car. I just had to have a Yabet steampunk carriage of my own for my characters to ride around in. I immediately noticed the lack of a steering wheel. When I asked Yabet, "How does it steer?" she replied, "It's magic." We had a good laugh over that. But her answer instantly planted the seed of a story in my mind. I told her I was going to make a model of her car and then write a story about it. As I was working on the miniature and pondering what the story would be, I wondered about the origins of self-driving vehicles. We have them now, but they aren't at all as charming or as cool as Yabet's steam carriage. I learned some interesting things along the way, though. The movie Chitty Chitty Bang Bang was released in mid-December 1968, just a few days before The Love Bug. For those who are unfamiliar, Herbie the Love Bug was a sentient 1963 Volkswagen Beetle. Chitty Chitty Bang Bang was a musical comedy that featured a sentient car that could float and fly. It was based on a series of children's books written by Sir Ian Fleming of James Bond fame. He wrote the series after suffering a heart attack. I think all those Bond stories must have stressed him out, so he wrote children's books to lighten up his life a bit. Following these sentient vehicles was Christine, a vengeful 1958 Plymouth Fury, which came out in 1983. I doubt you could use the name Fury for a car these days. Maximum Overdrive was made in 1986. An alien force delivered by a comet turns mundane machines into life-destroying robots. Then we come full circle with Disney and Cars. Sentient machines are nice again. Now we have Waymo, one of over 250 autonomous vehicle companies worldwide. How times have changed. But the steampunk carriage story does not have any horror or supernatural elements. Though I never set out to write any particular genre, one of my good friends accused me of writing cozy stories. I wasn't even aware that was a specific style of story until he brought it to my attention. So if cozy stories aren't your thing, feel free to skip the rest. Otherwise, grab a drink, hot or cold, get comfortable, and let me tell you a story. We begin in the city of Beraltus. In this city, as in many places on Thea, everyone knew a little magic, but a few people knew a lot. One such person was Torvik Pilkington. Torvik was always in a hurry, but somehow always late. He was always coming up with new things to impress the patrons of magic, and that meant he was usually quite absorbed in his explorations, to the point that he even sometimes forgot to eat. He slept in his workshop so that he could continue to invent and research on as little sleep as possible. He was a brilliant mage who combined the arts of magic and technology. His magically powered inventions brought fame and renown to his beloved city. He was always being asked to give lectures about his inventions and discoveries. Because he was so into his work, he was always missing appointments. He decided to make a carriage that would arrive when he needed to be somewhere. He called it the Autonomous Steampunk Carriage. The carriage was a wonder, speeding past the horse-drawn wagons that clip-clopped through the streets of Beraltus. Everyone knew when Torvik was leaving for his next appointment, because the steampunk carriage would let out a long whistle. Even Torvik could hear it from inside his workshop. If he took too long to get into the carriage, it would whistle louder and longer, rattling the nearby windows. Knowing the curious vehicle would be passing by soon, people gathered indoors and windows to watch it pass and to wave at Torvik, who loved waving back. Only one or two ever threw tomatoes at him in retaliation for being woken up from a nice afternoon nap by a steam whistle. The autonomous steampunk carriage was so popular that Torvik gave up lecturing and simply became a taxi driver. He loved conversing with the people who rode with him. He never asked them where they were going. The carriage always knew. When Torvik's passengers asked him how his steam carriage knew where to go, he simply said, "It's magic," and left it at that. Any sufficiently advanced magic is indistinguishable from high technology. Torvik Pilkington.